the RSD and the models of engaged learning and teaching. And what this is about is a problem that we encountered, which of course we didn't know how to deal with it, and I'm going to show you the solution that we've come up with currently, and you'll see how it connects to what you know about the RSD. So, you are generally familiar with the original matrix-shaped RSD, which is quite colourful in its full-blown version, quite complex, quite dense, something we don't usually give directly to students, and which began development in 2004 and came into this format in 2006. So the first versions of the full-blown research skill development framework were published on the website in 2006. And then some of the versions you got now might be 2006/2013, if you've got my printed version. If you've got the USP version, I'm not sure which one that is. But there's, currently on the website, it's 2016, because we're always responding to feedback and trying to improve the model. So, but basically, the look and feel and the substance have been the same. So we've just done the same fine tweaks over the years. So that hasn't been a big problem. What became a problem was this. We started finding that people who would like the idea behind the framework weren't always connecting directly to it. So the first version of that, when we took the 6 facets of the framework, was we found that some people said, yes, but this isn't really research. This is kind of like something else, pre-research, and we're not interested. So some of you know, and maybe a lot of you don't know, that we developed a version that is exactly the same, but it's just called the Research Skill Development Framework, and has 2 extra levels. And all you need to know about that is they solved all that debate. People never again, in any workshop since, have said this isn't really research, because it extended into the domain which is unequivocally, like undeniably research. The Indigo version, the level 6 you could call it, is adopted research, where people use your processes and methodologies and findings. They could be researchers citing, they could be research labs using a methodology, they could be communities, hospitals, schools, rural communities, island communities using your processes. And of course Mahindra was, that was one of the big elements he was talking about, and that collaboration with industry and people, the impact, because we want research that makes a difference. That's what really is driving this whole initiative, the member nation saying we want research that really contributes to the region. So that's level 6. Level 7 is that very high-end adopted research, enlarging research, where it changes the nature of the field. So it's something really substantial and takes a leadership where people follow, and really the field might be more concise or change in direction or expand, or any of those. But that's just to say that we had to accommodate those who are strongly research focused. That version accommodated to get everyone on the same page, from foundation student to the highest level professor or Nobel laureate. Everyone's on the same page. As a learning institution, university comes from universitas, which is about one set of rules for everyone, is what really universitas means. Then a colleague in work integrated learning said, I love the ideas behind this framework, but it doesn't work in industry context when we're placing students for internships and placements. Employers don't talk about research. It takes 100 years to get them to use that terminology. It doesn't work. But we could use the terminology about work integrated learning. So, for example, instead of embark and clarify, that framework talks about initiative. And levels of autonomy are the same, but it's about the extent of initiative that a student shows in their employment context, from prescribed, following exactly what the given demands were, to where they're actually still satisfying the minimum initial requirements, but adapting and innovating and taking the job in a fresh direction. So that terminology, if you look at that framework, there's actually not that many words that are similar. Maybe autonomy is a bit similar, but they've beautifully adapted it. And we had that framework since 2009. That was okay. That wasn't a big problem. Then colleagues said, well, in the clinical context, we actually use different terminology. So we had the clinical reflection framework started to develop. And then we had the engineers in 2012 said, we like your framework, but a year and a half later, they started to think, how can we use this directly with first year engineering students in a large communication and graphic design course? And they actually designed a version, which I'll show you in detail in a second. Some of you have seen this Pentagon version, but they called it Optimising Problem Solving. And that started to become a problem, because this is a version of RSD. And this, and this, and this, these are all versions of it. And we used to call them sister frameworks, or sometimes we still do. They're all same family, same thinking processes, but made to use the discipline terminology that's appropriate in their different contexts. And we couldn't limit people in, it just wasn't working. So seeing this organic evolution, using the same ideas, often simplifying it down for direct use with students. So it started to become more and more of a problem. We're saying, well, we've got all this diversity of frameworks. And then it got worse. Then in our early childhood setting, we had a music teacher who said, love this framework, I'm going to write a song. So, she wrote a song called Research Mountain, which she uses with 5-year-olds, and it's based on the 6 facets. It's highly prescribed, but it's based on, do you know the song She'll Be Coming Around the Mountain When She Comes? You know, what to do, how to start, what's my plan? Is the first verse, or the first line. And the students, you can go to the RSD website, RSD/schooling, and hear the students sing the song. And the teacher at one point said, there's a line, rules out speculation. And she said to the students while I was there, what does this word speculation mean? And this little 5-year-old put up his hand and said, I'm not guessing. And it was a really nice translation for a 5-year-old of a complex word that she introduced. And we've got a version for critical thinking, sort of based on jigsaw puzzle shape. So not only we did see change in terminology, we started to see shapes and people being creative. So a few years ago, we saw people in UU 204 and in education come up with weaving the map metaphors, come up with coconut metaphors, come up with Pacific Pearl metaphors, and so these are quite metaphoric in their own ways. So what we thought was, there's all these different versions. Oh well, that's obviously what people need to do. So we decided to melt them all together. So we've called the whole family MELT, and MELT stands for the Models of Engaged Learning and Teaching. So first of all, model is plural, because there's all those models I showed you, and all the different emerging models. So we're actually encouraging when I was at University of Adelaide, for example, we had a number of different workshop days where people were devising their own models of engaged learning and teaching. So the S is very important. We're saying, what can be connected? We know that there's some core features, 6 facets, and also considering the level of structure and guidance and autonomy is the 7th facet that keeps 7th aspect that keeps them all united. So the models are saying, yes, we do often see the need for adaptation. That's a very organic thing that happened, and we just said, okay, we acknowledge that, let's let it take place. Engaged learning, because all these active processes that people have been discussing these last day and a half, these are all, you could call it problem solving, critical thinking, evidence-based decision making, critical reflection, critical reasoning, researching. You can use many different names. So we just use that general, it's engaged learning. When the students' minds are on, and there's an evidence of that. Now I think you can actually have very quite passive learning, which can be fantastic. Sometimes when you're listening, I hope you're having a kind of relatively passive learning at the moment. I can't see, I can see little signs. I'm looking for body language signs of engagement, but there's not much evidence of you might be daydreaming, you might be sitting there, full eye contact, you might be thinking of going, for a holiday to Adelaide. So passive learning can be fantastic, but a lot of what we talked about is engaged learning in this conference. There's evidence, there's students doing stuff, they're converting things into maths, they're writing reports, they're doing oral presentations. There's engagement, and you know it because there's evidence. So we really want engaged learning, don't we? And you can call it many different things. We also want engaged teaching. And that's one of my big arguments for MELT and the RSD generally, is that people, we do want people to not feel like they're locked up. So I was a little bit concerned yesterday that one of our colleagues said, well, this is a very rigid framework. And I've heard people say, it's like a prison. It's a very colourful prison, locked into it. And sure, it could be, but it doesn't need to be that at all. It's a conceptual framework that can actually unlock creativity. It can actually sometimes giving one of students' big fears is a blank sheet of paper. And sometimes creativity can be minimised by open slather. And sometimes giving some parameters at first gives a way of thinking about being creative, and then it opens up over time. When? Well, that's in your hands. That's in your educated decisions. Is when do you kind of close down the parameters and give structure and guidance and modelling, and this is how we do things here, and when you open it up. That's all in your hands, course by course, assignment by assignment, project by project. So that's where this whole MELT thing comes from. So now I often introduce to the audience the MELT pentagon instead of calling it RSD, and it's the same. So embark and clarify, and I liked, this morning, let's see, was it Sarah Emma? Oh, yeah, so it was Sarah Emma. She actually had specific questions pinned to each facet. Well, that's right, wasn't it? And we found that the guiding questions really capture the sense of each facet. So we've got, for embark and clarify, what is our purpose? Very similar to Sarah Emma's. Find and generate, what do I need? We often pluralise these. I wish I had used the plural version. What is our purpose? What do we need? What should we trust? How do we arrange time, equipment, each other, interactions? What does it mean? And how do we relate? How do we relate our current understanding to the future? How do we relate what we just learned now, to what we already know to our current work? How to relate to each other within a group? How to relate to an audience? All those sort of